To help you with this question, let's work through the scenario together. So you need to identify the correct balance after the following transactions. Now, the best way to approach a question like this is to think about the accounting equation, which is assets less liabilities equals capital. Now, what we're going to do is that for every transaction that takes place in this scenario, we're going to work through what's happening to this equation. Starting off with the very first sentence that says, the bookshop owner invested $3,000 as capital. So that is the first transaction. Now, if you have an owner investing money, they're going to see that that money is put into a cash or a bank account. So here we're going to see assets increase by $3,000. But at the same time, that injection of capital will increase the capital by $3,000 as well. Okay, so in this equation, what's happening? Assets are increasing by 3,000, capital has also increased by 3,000. The accounting equation balances. Now, the second transaction tells us that this money was used to buy some books. Now, obviously, this business is a bookshop, so the books they buy will be inventory or stock. So the second transaction will mean that cash is now being reduced. Okay, I'm going to show that as a negative by putting brackets around it. But at the same time, inventory, which is an asset, is also increasing by the same amount. Okay, and in this transaction, there's no impact to capital or liabilities because all that's happening is that cash is being reduced because that money is being spent on buying some books. So the inventory is increasing. Now, the final transaction that we see taking place is that the business then ends up selling half of these books. Now, if you buy books to a total value of $3,000, half of that would mean $1,500. So what's happening here is that the inventory is being reduced by 1,500. Okay, so we're showing that as a negative. But then because these books have been sold, money is coming into their bank account. Notice that the amount they sold it for is $2,500. That is going to be an increase to cash. And hopefully what you can also deduce from this is that a profit is being made on this transaction. Now, you would have learned in this section earlier that any profit increases capital. It is amounts due back to the owners. So what we're going to see in the capital column is that profit is increasing by the $1,000. Now, if we were to total up everything that's happening here, okay, so we do 3,000 to start with, deduct 3,000, then add 3,000, deduct 1,500 and add 2,500, we get a total of 4,000 in the assets column. And likewise, what we have is a total within our capital of 4,000 because that is just the 3,000 and the 1,000. Obviously here, when we think about the assets, they are all examples of current assets, okay? So cash, inventory, these are examples of current assets. So in the question, it is option 1, which is the correct answer, okay?